the career ladder, the ladder of life. Whatever life gifts you, you help the next person. If you've been through cancer, help the next person with cancer. If you've been laid off, help the next person who got laid off. So she said, meet Sharon. I met Sharon. Sharon was pregnant in her 20s. The guy left her. I said, whatever I can do to help you, because people did it for me. We became great friends. She met my daughter. And Thanksgiving Day, I invited her to our home. She called that morning and said, can I bring my brother, James? I said, of course. That Thanksgiving morning, James walked into our home. And 3 years later, my daughter married him. Now, I always tell my women friends, you know, he's not just going to show up on the doorstep. You got to do something. He just might. But things will come to you when you carry as you climb. I have an amazing son-in-law because I passed along the gifts that I got from what was my biggest mistake, my biggest mess, turned out to be my biggest miracle. And now when I look at my grandbabies, Asher and Ainsley, they have the same blue eyes that James has. And I think of that gift that came out of my mess. And I hope that for you, you can look in that rearview mirror and say, I got to share my wounds too. Not just my great stuff on my resume, but my wounds too. And a couple things that I learned along the way. When in doubt, just take the next right step. You know, I didn't know how to get my life back together. I was going to go back to college, didn't know what I was going to be when I grew up. I was going to go to Akron U instead of Kent. Don't freak out, everybody from Kent. But what happened was divine intervention. And you got to pay attention to when things don't work. Okay, they're little like warning signs. I went to Akron U to register for classes. The first time I went, I got lost. I don't know how, but I come from Ravenna. Akron's a big town when you're from Ravenna. The second time I went, I was in line for 3 hours. I got to the desk and the computer shut down and I had to come back. The third time I went, I waited for an hour, got in line, there was a bomb threat, they closed the school. I'm like, okay, I'm not supposed to go to Akron U. So I came back to Kent State. And honest to goodness, they had an academic forgiveness policy, and they erased my F in chemistry, and I think I had another F in something else, and they took me back in. I decided I wanted to be a writer. It's my passion, my dream, and all of you have that passion in you. It's the thing that scares you most. I always knew I wanted to be a writer, but I was terrified of it. I was so scared. What if I actually reach in and call it out and fail? That little Fred Flintstone voice, you can't write, you're no good. I didn't want to activate it, so if I just did other things, kind of outrun the voice. You know what you need to do? You need to say to the voice, I'm scared, but we're going to do it anyway. Come on along. And I came to Kent State. I majored in journalism. I remember my first byline. I was sitting on the bus from Ravenna to Kent State, and there on the floor was a copy of the Daily Kent Stater, and I picked it up, and with a footprint on it, I saw my byline. And they spelled my name right. Wow. And then I realized I spelled my name right. I wrote that. But that was my dream, to be a writer, and it only happened when I finally said, I'm going to do what I'm scared to do. It's what I'm called to do. And all of us are called to do something. You know, I was in Ravenna at that little Catholic school, Immaculate Conception, which was a little tricky when I got pregnant because I was on the board of Immaculate Conception Church at the time. You know, small towns, it's a little tough, you know. But when I was at Immaculate Conception School, they always had a thing called Vocations Day. Any Catholics in the room will know on Vocations Day, you do not want to get picked. The great chooser in the sky picks somebody to be a priest or a nun, and you slide down in your desk and you hide because you don't want to be called. You don't want a calling. You want to be like a slacker and get married, have kids, have fun. Because you don't know that there are all these choices in life, you know? And back when a lot of us were younger, the choices for women were teacher, nurse, secretary, telephone operator, mom. That was pretty much it. There weren't doctors, heads of companies, lawyers, not many of them. And what I learned about vocations is we all have one. Every single one of us, we're called to do something that's uniquely ours. There's no competition for what you have to offer this world. I don't worry about the competition. There is no competition because Regina Brett is Regina Brett. I don't write like Connie Schultz. I don't write like Thomas Friedman. I am supposed to be the best Regina Brett there is. That's an easy job. It's hard when I try to be somebody else. So what's your vocation? The best definition I heard was it's the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. So what you love to do, you find out where the world needs it done. Because if you just do what you want to do and there's no need for it, one, you probably won't get paid for it. Two, even if you get paid a lot, you're not going to feel satisfied on the inside. So find out what you love. Reach deep. And if it's not what you're doing now, then be willing to walk over that bridge and get to it. You don't want to die with your music in you. You don't. You got one great life here. Embrace it. you know? There's a great quote by Stephen Jobs that I keep in my medicine cabinet. Every morning when I get my toothbrush, I read it. If today were the last day of your life, would you do what you're about to do today? And I read that every day. And part of the reason I read it every day is because 14 years ago I had cancer. And when you get cancer, it's this great wake-up call. You know, I found a lump in my breast, found breast cancer. I had 3 aunts who died from it. It looked scary. When I ran ambulance, I used to take people to their chemo appointments. It looked scary. Cancer, another great gift in that rearview mirror. It's not a great gift when you're looking right at it and you're looking in the mirror at a bald woman. You don't feel like it's a gift. Greatest gift it gave me is every day, live your mission in life, live your passion, live your vocation. You have one great, wonderful exclamation point of this life. What are you going to do with it? Find out and live it. And if you're doing it, then all this stuff falls right into place. Everything they're talking about today falls right into place. Another thing I learned along the way. When it comes to going after what you want in life, don't take no for an answer. I can't tell you how many people said no along the way. I want to be a columnist, they said no. I tried again, they said no. Finally, I wore them down. I typed up like 5 samples, 52 ideas. I kept sending my editors columns. I finally, like, uncle, you know, I finally got them, and I got my column. Wow, don't take no for an answer. When I graduated from Kent State, I sent out 30 resumes, and I got 30 rejection letters. And the Lorraine Journal hired me because I didn't take no for an answer. I said, I want to be a writer. I'm going to keep trying. Don't take no. Lesson my husband taught me. My husband is Jewish, and he grew up where you asked for things. They were empowered in a different way than I was. I grew up Catholic. If you didn't get it, it's not yours to get in this lifetime. The reward comes in heaven. Okay? That was the big thing. I was Irish Catholic, so it was always the reward comes in heaven. You know what? My husband says, if you don't ask, you don't get. You know, one of our presenters today said, always ask for a microphone. You might not get it, but always ask. Whatever you need, ask. Yesterday, I had to order some supplies for our kitchen, and I thought maybe I'll get a discount because our contractor's supposed to, so I asked, and I got it. I didn't used to be like that. My husband used to, we'd go to fly somewhere, he'd ask for an upgrade, and I'd always be afraid to go first class if I didn't have the ticket. It's like Catholic karma. If I was assigned seat B3 and the plane goes down and I'm in first class, ooh, the boogeyman, what could happen? Ask for whatever you want in life. If you want a raise, don't just expect them to see what you've done. Put up a billboard, you know? Tell them what you've done. Make yourself known. Most of the time, the people that are in our way, there's just one. It's us. The person in your way is usually you. Another lesson, don't compare your life to anybody else's journey because you have no idea what their path has been like. So many people look at your path and go, well, wow, look how easy she's got it. Wow, she went right to the top of that company. They have no idea what your starting point was. They have no idea what home you grew up in, what parenting you had or didn't have. And so much of the obstacles we have in our life today, so much of us had parents that maybe couldn't be there for us, things that happened to us that maybe weren't perfect. And you know what? Those, again, they're your gifts and they're your wounds. And you got to share them and you got to embrace them. I want to talk a little bit about how to empower yourself along the way in this journey. A couple things that cancer taught me. Cancer, again, great teacher. One of the things you learn is that there's never a bad hair day after you've been bald. You know, I was looking in the bathroom, I'm like, oh, my hair's a little frizzy, and then I'm like, Regina, you got hair today. Take it. One thing cancer taught me is this, and these are things that empower you because they are to the core of who you are. Burn the candles, use the nice sheets, wear the fancy lingerie. How many women in here have candles at home, beautiful aromatherapy, pumpkin spice, vanilla, and you've never lit that candle because you don't want to use it up? I want to see your hands. Come on, ladies. There you go. Okay. All right. How many of you have little fancy soap on the toilet tank no one's allowed to touch? You kind of dust it a little. Your husband's like, why can't we use the rose petal soap or the seashell? And then one day you go to dust it and it disintegrated in the... How many of you have a beautiful outfit with a tag still on it? You're waiting for a special occasion. I got to tell you, I used to work at a funeral home, one of my many jobs. One of my jobs was to dress people for calling hours. And they used to bring in the outfit that the person never wore, that they were saving for the special occasion. I'm not kidding you. Men, the power ties, you know, that from the 80s, that yellow one. If you still have it in your closet and it's new, they're going to bury you in that. And really, ladies, wear the stuff. I want to be buried in the clothes that I loved and wore out, you know? Too many of us were hesitant. We don't live our lives because we're waiting for that special day. Every day is special enough for the good stuff, the good china, the fine glasses. Cancer taught me that. Another thing that I learned through cancer was, instead of asking everybody else for the answers, consult your own soul. Sometimes we like interview people. What do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? And 10 people tell you the same thing, but you're still interviewing people. You know what you do, I've learned, is you stop and you interview yourself and say, Regina, what is it you want to do? And then you pause and you listen. Because most of us already have the answers. They're already inside of us. We just don't always want the answer that's inside of us. But if you want to hear it, you will hear it. And the way I do that is every day I wake up, I spend some quiet time, I meditate, I listen to my own self, and that's where that source of power is. Another thing cancer taught me, don't take yourself so seriously, because nobody else does. I learned this the hard way. One day I was like that superwoman, type A, you know, having 100 things to do, and I swear women are more like that than men. We're like the guy in the old Ed Sullivan show with spinning the plates. You know, he's got the sticks and the plates, we got the kids and the job and the laundry and the baking and on, and they're gonna fall. And I once read that women die from heart attacks more than men because they ignore going to the hospital. Men get signs and they go right away. Women take like an hour. And you know what they're doing? They get a sign of a heart attack, chest pain, they bake a casseroles for the week that they're gonna be gone, they do a load of laundry, they put the lunches together for the kids. You gotta take care of yourself. And one day I was out in the parking lot. I remember this. I was getting ready to go somewhere, and I used to get dressed in a really big hurry. Women used to wear pantyhose under slacks because we couldn't have a panty line. My God forbid a panty line. So I used to kind of take them all off at once and throw them in, you know, the pile, and then you shake them out. Well, I forgot to take out the old pantyhose, and when I put on my new pants one day, so I'm walking, and all of a sudden I'm stepping on something. I'm like, what is that? I thought it was like the dog somebody maybe walked. I look down and there's a puddle of brown. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm in a parking lot and I'm pulling out the pantyhose that is all the way in a U in the clothes I'm wearing. And then I look and there's like 10 men on the sidewalk. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. And that's when I learned you can't take yourself too seriously, ladies. And you don't have to worry about panty lines. Who cares, right? Another lesson. No one is in charge of your happiness except you. The boss isn't, your coworkers aren't, the board isn't. You have to decide what makes you happy. You know, somebody said to me, you can be happy or you can be miserable. It takes the same amount of effort. And think about it. We apply that when there's that person calling us like, oh God, no, they have 10 more problems. Sometimes we're that person. Do you want to be happy? There are times I ask myself that. I'm kind of doom and gloomy and I'll say, wait a minute, Regina, do you want to be happy? And you know what? Sometimes the answer is no. I want a big fat pity party and I just want to whine and pout. And then after about 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, enough of that. I do want to be happy. You have a choice and the choice is yours. It's nobody else's. It's not your ex-husband. It's not the boss who done you wrong. Nobody else can have the power to make you happy or unhappy. It's all up to you, which is the great gift. Because if nobody else has the power, then you have the power to make yourself happy and joyful. That kind of deep happiness that nobody can take. Another lesson cancer taught me, you can get through anything if you just stay put in today. The day you're in right now, you can handle anything life gives you if you say, you know what, I can handle that for one day. When I had cancer, I got sick from chemotherapy, my hair all fell out, I had radiation for 6 weeks every day, I felt pretty wiped out. And you know what I did every day was I said, you know, Regina, you can do one day of cancer. It was when I thought it was endless, I would have despair. You can do one day of being underemployed or unemployed or having a job that you hate. You can do one day of that. It's when you think, oh my God, there are 10 years till I retire. Oh, how do I do 10 years? You don't have to do 10 years. You do one day. And some days, you go to bed really early so the day's cut short. That works even better. Another lesson cancer taught me, no matter how you feel, get up, dress up, and show up. Get up, dress up, and show up. Look, a lot of us have burdens bigger than our jobs. A lot of us have things in our lives, children with disabilities, sons with autism, depression in our family, things that nobody else knows about, that are heavy. We wake up in the morning and we're overwhelmed with things that aren't on the business schedule today, but they're part of our lives. The 37-year-old son who's still living in the basement. Oh, come on already. But those are our burdens too. And you know what? Some days you just get up, you dress up, and you show up. And that's enough. And at the end of the day, you can say, I didn't do 3,000 things, but you got up, you dressed up, you showed up. Whew, give yourself an A+ for that. Cancer taught me, get rid of anything that isn't useful, beautiful, or joyful. Might be your husband. Might be the job you have. Think about it, though. How many of you have closets full of clothes, 10 sizes that you'll never be? Or trends that you think are going to come back, like the shoulder pad suits. Get rid of them. Get rid of who you aren't. Get rid of who you aren't. Go home and look in your closet and say, am I that person? We wear about 20% of what's in our closet, but we get lost behind the 80% that isn't us anymore. All those to-do projects, Cancer told me get rid of those things that you don't want to spend your life doing. Because how you spend today is how you spent your life. And at the end of your life, what are they going to say about you? Boy, she had a lot of to-do lists, never got them done. A lot of projects, never got them done. I finally got this project out of my basement, 2 projects. One was a sewing project. Now, I grew up poor, we sewed a lot, so I would always buy fabric, sew my clothes. I found a jumper with the fabric still pinned to it from 1980 that wasn't finished, and I was saving it for what? Our jumpers? Am I going to ever wear a jumper? I don't think so. I don't think they're coming back in style. And you know what? I threw it out, and I didn't even stop to take all the pins out. Because they're 39 cents a box, and my life is worth more than spending that time doing that. I had a rocking chair in my basement. I had been to a flea market, and they had a rocking chair for $1. $1. All it needed was reupholstered and stained. Does Regina Brett know how to reupholster furniture? No. Does Regina Brett know how to stain furniture? No. But it was only $1. So I brought it home, put it in the basement, was going to do the big project. I tried to stain one arm, it was all splotchy. I'm like, I'll go back another day. A year later, I moved it to the garage, then I'll do it. 2 years later, I looked and chipmunks had built a nest in the chair, and I realized Regina Brett is never going to recover furniture. I put it on the curb. I'm not kidding. 5 minutes later, a woman drove by and said, oh my God, a free rocking chair. Don't spend your life on who you aren't and what you aren't.